Welcome back to Books and Bites, where we unpack incredible books to help you learn faster.
I love that unpack. It's like we're opening up a treasure chest of knowledge.
Exactly. And today's treasure chest is, well, The Wright Brothers by David McCullough.
Ah, a classic. I just finished reading it again, and it never fails to inspire me.
Same here. I mean, think about it. The brothers who gave us the gift of flight, neither of them even had a college degree.
It's pretty mind-blowing. Like, how did they pull that off?
That's what we're diving into today.
Right. And McCullough does such an amazing job of, like weaving their personal story with all the technical stuff about their invention.
Yeah, it's not just a dry recounting of facts and dates. It's like you're right there with them, figuring things out, experiencing the setbacks and breakthroughs.
Totally. He doesn't just tell you what they did, but really gets into the why, like why they succeeded when so many others failed.
Okay, so let's talk about those whys then. I mean, their upbringing seems pretty key, right? McCullough paints this picture of Dayton, Ohio in the late 1800s. Like, education and curiosity were really valued.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And their parents were huge influences. Their father, a bishop, really fostered that intellectual curiosity, always encouraged them to learn.
And their mother, she was incredibly hands-on, like fixing everything around the house.
Exactly. It's like their first exposure to mechanics was like, Mom.
Which makes you wonder, if they had grown up in a different environment, would they have still achieved what they did?
It's hard to say, right? But that environment definitely played a role.
Speaking of early influences, there's that story about the toy helicopter their dad brought home. Like, almost symbolic,
Yeah.
a childhood toy sparking this lifelong obsession.
I love that anecdote.
But then, they end up running a bicycle shop. Not exactly the obvious path to becoming aviation pioneers, right?
You think so? But honestly, that bicycle shop was more than just a way to pay the bills. It was like their training ground.
In what way?
Well, they're designing, building, repairing, constantly tinkering, solving problems. The book even mentions how some of their early bicycle designs, like, foreshadow elements of their aircraft.
Wow, so they were kind of honing the skills they'd need for flight without even realizing it.
Exactly. And they were such voracious learners, too.
In what sense?
McCullough talks about how they would, just devour books and articles by other aviation pioneers, people like Otto Lilienthal, Octave Chanute. Like, they were absorbing all this knowledge, understanding what had already been tried, what worked, what didn't.
So they weren't just tinkering in a vacuum. They were actively studying, building upon the work of others.
Absolutely.
But then comes this decision to move their experiments to Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. It seems so random. Like, why there?
It wasn't random at all. They chose Kitty Hawk for very specific reasons. Strong, consistent winds and that soft, sandy terrain. Perfect conditions for testing their gliders.
Makes sense. Those early gliders were crucial stepping stones, right?
Oh, totally. But those first attempts, back in 1900, 1901, weren't exactly smooth sailing, They had their fair share of crashes and setbacks.
Well, yeah, I mean, they were basically figuring it out as they went along, right?
Right. But here's where their scientific approach really shines through. Instead of getting discouraged, giving up, they meticulously analyzed each failure. Like, McCullough describes how they realized the aerodynamic data they were relying on, it was actually flawed.
Whoa. So instead of blindly following conventional wisdom, they kind of took matters into their own hands.
Exactly. And that's when they built their own wind tunnel, started conducting all these rigorous experiments.
Talk about dedication.
Right. And all that led to a major breakthrough, their invention of the 3-axis control system, that system for pitch, roll, yaw. That's still used in aviation today.
So that's how they finally achieved controlled flight with their 1902 glider.
It's a testament to persistence, meticulous observation. Those guys were relentless.
And that was all just gliding. They weren't even close to done yet. They wanted powered flight.
Oh, yeah. That's where things get really interesting. Powered flight. Yeah. And, that ambition is what drove them to create the Flyer.
The Flyer.
Yeah. That was no ordinary engine. Right. They actually, they designed and built it themselves.
Which is
crazy.
Okay.
It just shows how incredibly ingenious they were.
I mean, I could barely change a tire. And these guys are building aircraft engines from scratch. Over 100 years ago. It's unbelievable.
Right.
And then comes that iconic moment, December 17th, 1903, at Kitty Hawk.
Kitty Hawk.
Orville's at the controls.
Yeah.
First successful powered flight.
Yeah, it was a short flight, 12 seconds, covering 120 feet.
Right.
But you can't overstate the significance of it.
No.
I mean, later that day, Wilbur flew 59 seconds, covering 852 feet. These weren't just hops. These were controlled, sustained flights.
Control.
Yeah.
And think about it. They achieved this while other people with way more resources and funding were totally failing.
Right.
What set the Wright brothers apart? I mean, was it purely their technical skills or was it something more?
I think it was definitely more than that.
Yeah.
McCullough really highlights how their mindset was different.
Okay.
They were completely laser-focused on control and stability, not just, brute force propulsion.
Got it.
They understood that for true flight, you needed to master the nuances of the air itself.
So it wasn't just about, getting off the ground.
Exactly.
It was about staying up there and maneuvering.
Exactly. And that's what ultimately set them apart from everyone else, that forward-thinking approach.
And so you think, okay, they've done it. The world's going to erupt in celebration, right?
Right.
But instead, what do they get met with?
Skepticism.
Skepticism.
Yeah.
I mean, thinking about it now, it seems crazy.
I know.
But their achievement was initially met with doubt.
A lot of doubt.
The scientific community, the press,
They were dismissive.
even the U.S. government didn't seem too interested.
It's fascinating. McCullough really gets into this whole idea of paradigm shift resistance. People just couldn't wrap their heads around something that seemed impossible.
Yeah.
It challenged their entire understanding of what was and wasn't possible.
So they're already dealing with this skepticism, and then they had other challenges too, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, McCullough details how other inventors like Samuel Langley were getting way more attention and funding.
Even though they were failing.
Even though they were failing repeatedly.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they had these legal battles.
Really?
Yeah, to try and protect their patents from competitors who were trying to, just rip them off.
So even after proving their concept, it's still an uphill battle.
Absolutely. But you know what they didn't give up?
Of course not.
Despite all the obstacles, they kept going, refining their aircraft, conducting longer and more stable flights.
Yeah, there's that great quote from Wilbur where he says,
It is not really necessary to look too far into the future. We see enough already to be certain that it will be magnificent.
and that quote really captures it perfectly.
Yeah.
Their unwavering belief in the power of what they created.
Yeah, and finally, by 1908, after a series of public demonstrations, the world couldn't deny their contribution anymore.
They finally got the recognition.
They got the recognition they deserved.
But of course, their journey isn't without tragedy.
Right.
1912, Wilbur, the older brother, passes away from typhoid fever.
That's devastating.
He was often seen as the, strategic mind behind the whole
A
operation.
driving force.
It's hard to imagine the impact of that loss,
Absolutely.
not just personally, but, for the future of their work.
Yeah, it was a huge blow.
So Orville continues working in aviation for a time, but eventually withdraws from the business side of things.
Right.
But by then, the impact of the Wright brothers was undeniable.
Unquestionably.
They had secured contracts with both the U.S. and French governments for military aircraft.
Wow.
And their company, the Wright Company, became a leader in aviation manufacturing.
It's incredible to think how much they achieved.
Their legacy extends far beyond even all of that.
Of course.
They started a revolution
A revolution.
that changed transportation warfare, global connectivity.
Yeah, the world was never the same after the Wright brothers.
It all started with two brothers,
Two brothers.
a bicycle shop,
And a dream.
and this relentless pursuit of a dream that so many people thought was just impossible.
It's an incredible story.
As we kind of reflect on their story, what are some of the key takeaways that you think our listeners can apply to their own lives?
It really makes you think about that quote, the best dividends on the labor invested have invariably come from seeking more knowledge rather than more power.
It's so true.
They just never stopped learning, experimenting.
Pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, always pushing the boundaries of what was possible.
What I find so amazing is that even after they achieved something so groundbreaking,
Oh, right.
they stayed so grounded.
McCullough really emphasizes that, their humility.
Yeah, they never seemed to be in it for fame or fortune.
Nope.
Even when they achieved global recognition, it was always about the team, the family,
Yeah.
the people who inspired them.
It's a good lesson for all of us.
Yeah.
Even the greatest achievements are rarely solo efforts.
Right. It takes collaboration.
Shared learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they weren't afraid to share their knowledge either.
Never.
They actually encouraged other people to build upon their work.
Right, because they understood that the true potential of aviation
Yeah.
was in its ability to connect people.
And open up all these possibilities.
Yeah, they envisioned a future where flight would break down barriers, foster communication, and bring the world closer together.
And, in a lot of ways, that vision has come true.
It really has.
I mean, aviation has revolutionized travel, trade, communication.
Absolutely.
It's allowed us to explore the world, connect with different cultures,
Right.
gain a deeper understanding of our planet.
It's mind-boggling when you think about all the ripple effects of what they did.
From commercial air travel to space exploration,
Humanitarian aid delivery.
scientific research.
It touches so many parts of modern life.
And it all started with those two brothers, that bicycle shop and that unwavering belief in human ingenuity.
It's an incredible story.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Wright brothers, is there one lasting thought that you really hope our listeners will take away from all of this?
One lasting thought. I think it's that innovation can come from the most unexpected places.
Yeah.
You know, the Wright brothers, they didn't fit the mold of the typical inventor.
Right.
They were driven by curiosity, perseverance, and that willingness to learn from their mistakes.
They really show us that anyone, even seemingly ordinary people with enough passion and a dream, can change the world.
Exactly. And their story reminds us that success is rarely a straight line, you know?
It's messy.
It's messy. It's full of challenges, setbacks, moments of doubt.
For sure.
But it's in those moments, you know, the tough times, that true resilience is forged.
It's inspiring.
It is.
The Wright brothers' legacy is a testament to the power of human curiosity and the potential of innovation to change everything.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Their story inspires us to embrace the unknown, push the boundaries of what we think is possible, and never stop reaching for the sky.
Well said.
Check out the book using the link below, and don't forget to subscribe for more daily insights.